Broncos country, welcome back to another video here on the ParkerLovesSports YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going over my top 5, essentially. I have some honorable mentions, so it's like a top 8, but my top 5 potential breakout candidates for the Denver Broncos for the upcoming 2024-25 season. Now, I know I've been gone for a little bit, and that's just because, A, this is kind of the dead time in the offseason. You know, I'm a big hockey, football guy, and so those two sports are obviously over. Hockey, the Stanley Cup has already been awarded, and this is kind of the dead time for football. So I haven't been making a lot of videos. I haven't really, well, I've had some ideas, but I just really haven't recorded or posted them or made them. And then also, I was on a couple of family vacations that took up about a month span. So and that's the reason why I have not been making many videos recently. I'm hoping to pick things back up. In fact, I will be live on Sunday for the 2024 MLB draft. You should be seeing this on Saturday. So tomorrow I should be live for the MLB draft, and we're just going to hang out. I don't know how long we're going to go. I don't know if we're just going to do a couple hours, the full first round, maybe even the first round, the comp picks, the second round. I don't know, but there'll be a hangout. And then another question I wanted to ask you guys would be, I'm going to make college football 25 video game or videos on the college football 25 video game. Do you guys want to see that here or on a separate second channel I made for video games? I had some videos up, but I deleted them. Where would you like to see college football 25 videos? Let me know in the comment section below. But I kind of rambled, and I got on a little bit of a tangent here. Let's go ahead and let's jump in to my top breakout candidates for the Denver Broncos for this upcoming season. But of course, as always, I do have to remind you that Jesus is King, and I just pray that you give your life to Him as He has got a plan and a purpose for you. And I just truly hope that you accept Jesus with your whole heart and believe that He died on the cross for your sins. And if you truly believe that, then you'll go to heaven. It's that simple. It's that easy. It's not through how many good works we do, how many times we go to church, or how many times we read our Bible. It's solely through our faith in Jesus and believing that He sacrificed Himself on the cross for our sins, because we are sinners. We sin all the time, and it's because of Jesus' sacrifice which we're saved. He bridges the gap. He sacrificed Himself for us, and so it's a very important message that I like to share at the beginning of every single one of my videos. You know, a lot of people won't like it, but quite frankly, I don't care. It's important to me, and so I'm going to put it at the beginning of every single one of my videos. And now with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump in to my top breakout candidates. First up, we do have a couple of honorable mentions. The first honorable mention for me is Nick Bonitto. I'm a big Nick Bonitto fan, and seeing his development the past 2 seasons, his rookie year and then his sophomore year last year, I've really been impressed. He's always been a pass rush specialist. He's always been really solid as a pass rusher, but last season he started to develop as a run defender as well, and I'm excited to see what year 3 Nick Bonitto can look like. I truly believe that he's going to be one of our starting edge rushers. I think it's going to be him and Baron Browning starting. He has just got so much upside. You know, I think of him, I think he could develop into that high-end edge rusher number 1 that we're looking for. But I also think that if he doesn't, I think that he can be a very high-end number 2 edge rusher for the Broncos, a very nice complimentary guy. Here are his stats through his first 2 seasons. He's played in 30 games with 44 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 23 quarterback hits, and 9.5 sacks. I'm a big fan of Nick Bonitto, and I'm excited to see what he does in year number 3. Another honorable mention that I have is rookie running back Audric Estime. With a lot of uncertainty at the running back position, I think Audric Estime could absolutely be a breakout candidate. We'll have to see what happens with Javonte Williams. I think he makes the roster, but we'll see if he can get back to that rookie year form where he looked almost unstoppable. You know, looks like we're going to cut ways with either Javonte or Samaje Perine. I think Samaje Perine will most likely be a cap casualty and be cut. Or not necessarily even a cap casualty, just a roster limit casualty, essentially. And if Javonte doesn't get back to form, I think Audric Estime could step up and take that role as the thumper physical running back. You can see his college stats on screen right now with 37 games played, 373 rushing attempts, 2,321 yards, averaging about 6.2 yards per rush and 29 touchdowns in his college career. And sticking on the running back theme, I also have Jaleel McLaughlin because I think he could emerge as the #1 running back. Of course, he's that smaller scat back, going to be shifty in space. He's going to be a receiving back, not really going to run through guys, going to try and run around them, evade them. But I was very impressed with Jaleel McLaughlin last season. And if things play out how I think they're going to play out, I would think we would keep 4 running backs, at minimum 3. And in my opinion, sorry for hitting the mic, I think it's going to be Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, and undrafted free agent running back Blake Watson. And if Javonte struggles, I very well could see Jaleel McLaughlin stepping into that #1 running back role. In 17 games last year for the Broncos, he had 76 rushing attempts for 410 rushing yards, averaging about 5.4 yards per rush, and he had 3 touchdowns, 1 of them on the ground, 2 through the air. I don't have his receiving stats, obviously because he's a running back, but he can be a receiving back, and running backs do play an important part in the passing game, but I just showed his rushing stats aside from the 2 receiving touchdowns he had last season. But with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into my top 5 list for breakout candidates. First on that list is going to be Baron Browning. Now, I wanted mostly to do a list full of rookies this year or second-year players, but I had to throw Baron Browning in here because he is on his contract year. He's going into the final year of his rookie deal, so this is going to be make or break. Are the Broncos going to extend him to a long-term contract after this year? Or is he going to walk and the Broncos, are we going to go in a different direction? It'll be very interesting to see because he's shown flashes, but Browning has not had that breakout year yet. First year, his rookie year, started off as an off-ball linebacker. Then year 2, he started to play edge rusher more. Last season, he was hurt at the start of the year. And so this year, hopefully he can stay healthy. He can play the full year. And if he plays solid, if he plays well, I do expect the Broncos to extend him maybe to a 2-3 year deal. We'll have to see how well he plays, but I'm expecting Baron Browning to potentially have a breakout season this year. If we take a look at not the running back room, the edge room, let me go ahead and switch this real quick. Alrighty, so this is what I expect the edge rusher room to look like. Of course, there's a couple more guys who could make the roster, but this is what I expect it to look like by the time we get down to 53 players. I think we're going to be carrying 4 edge rushers on the roster. Of course, Baron Browning as the #1. We talked about him earlier as well, Nick Bonitto. I think Baron Browning and Nick Bonitto are going to be the top 2 edge rushers on this team. Then at number 3, we have Jonathan Cooper, who is a very nice rotational piece and really showed some flashes. I think he could absolutely be the starter. We'll just have to see who plays better. Obviously, the best players are going to play, and I think between Browning, Bonitto, and Jonathan Cooper, those are going to be the top 3 guys. It just depends on who is being more productive, who's showing more flashes, who is going to obviously be the better player to start. I think these are the top 3 guys. And then, of course, we have Jonah Elliss, who, when I've done some more research, I've been impressed on Jonah Elliss. I think he'll probably get some snaps. He'll probably get some playing time this year, but I don't expect it to be a whole lot. I think this is going to be more of a developmental year for Jonah Elliss. But yeah, I think this is how the edge rushing room plays out, and I think because of that, Baron Browning has a nice opportunity to obviously break out. That's why Nick Bonitto is on here as an honorable mention as well. 2 edge rushers get to play at the same time, so I think they're going to be rotated a lot. But I think Browning or Bonitto, I think either one of them could just be so dominant. They're going to be on the field, they're going to be on the field for 3 downs. I expect Browning probably to be more of a 3-down player more than Bonitto, although Bonitto has really improved his run stopping, so he could absolutely be a 3-down player. Like I mentioned, I'm a big fan of Bonitto, but yeah, this is what the edge rusher room is looking like. And through his first 3 seasons, Browning has played in 38 games with 107 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 22 quarterback hits, and 9.5 sacks. Pretty similar, honestly, to Nick Bonitto, I believe, when we showed his stats earlier. Obviously, stats don't tell the whole story. They lie, so you got to watch the tape. But yeah, I've been very impressed with Baron Browning, and I think he very well could be a potential breakout candidate for the Denver Broncos. Moving on to my number 4 potential breakout candidate, and that's going to be Riley Moss. Of course, we traded up for Riley Moss, and he didn't see a whole lot of playing time at cornerback. A large part of that was early in the season. Around training camp, he got hurt, missed the entirety of the preseason. And then when he did come back, he was mostly a special teamer, playing on punts, kickoffs, obviously punt return, all that good stuff. I expect Riley Moss to be given a true shot to potentially be the number 2 corner opposite of Pat Surtain. Of course, Sean Payton really likes Riley Moss. That's why we traded up in not this past draft, but 2 drafts ago in 2023. Traded up with the Seahawks, gave up a 3rd round pick. Obviously, when it was the 2023 draft, we gave up a 2024 3rd round pick to go up and get Riley Moss. So we gave up a lot to go and get Riley Moss. But that just shows how much Sean Payton likes him, and I think he's going to be given every opportunity to be a starter this year. If we go ahead and we look at the cornerback room, obviously Pat Surtain is the number 1 corner. No one's dethroning him on this roster. The number 2 guy is going to be Jaquan McMillan. He's going to obviously play as the slot nickel type of guy. Then we have, in my opinion, Riley Moss. I like Riley Moss as the other outside corner opposite of Pat Surtain. Could get some playing time in the slot, or if you need 4 defensive backs out on the field, he'll get some playing time in that area. We'll just have to see where Sean Payton likes him and where he's going to place him in the depth chart. But it's not going to be an easy competition for Riley Moss because, of course, we signed Levi Wallace in the offseason, so he's going to add some competition there as well. Got Damari Mathis, a former 4th round pick in 2022. And then we have Chris Abrams-Draine, a 5th round pick from this past draft. Now, he's mostly a slot nickel guy, so he'll be backing up Jaquan McMillan this season. But this is what I expect the cornerback room to look like this upcoming season for the Denver Broncos. And in his college career, Riley Moss has played in 54 games, of course. This is with the Iowa Hawkeyes. He had 158 total tackles, 26 passes defended, and 11 interceptions. I expect Riley Moss to take a big leap this year, going to be given every single opportunity to earn a starting job this year. Was a solid special teamer, but when we traded up to get Riley Moss, when we gave up a future 3rd essentially when this happened, I want to see him on the field. I want to see what type of impact he can make on this squad. We'll have to see. We got a couple young guys. We'll see if Damari Mathis can bounce back. We'll see what happens. But I'm a big fan of Riley Moss, and we'll see if he can make an impact this season and earn a starting job. Next up, number 3, we have Troy Franklin. I am super stoked about Troy Franklin, as I'm sure many of you know if you were watching the draft stream during essentially day 2 and day 3. I was like, okay, hopefully the Broncos can get either Adonai Mitchell or Troy Franklin on day 2. Adonai Mitchell went. Then Troy Franklin was still on the board when we picked in the 3rd round. Passed on him, but traded up in the 4th round to go and get Troy Franklin. And I am stoked to be pairing Troy Franklin up with his college quarterback in Bo Nix for this upcoming season. I think that's going to be a very solid, very lethal connection potentially because they already have that chemistry right away. Here's what the receiving room is looking like. Currently, obviously, Courtland Sutton is the number 1 wide receiver. Then we have Josh Reynolds, who we signed in the offseason to be that other outside receiver, the number 2 receiver, who played very solid last year for the Lions outside of the NFC Championship game. He had a pretty bad game in the NFC Championship game, but if he forgets that and plays how he did the rest of the last season, Josh Reynolds is a solid number 2 option. And then, of course, you got Marvin Mims, who you traded up in the 2nd round for. He's going to be the punt returner, obviously, but I do expect the Broncos to get him more involved offensively this year. Then I think Troy Franklin slots in right at that wide receiver number 4 position currently, but could easily climb to maybe that number 3, number 2 guy with his chemistry with Bo Nix. He might be a go-to target, and therefore that might help Troy Franklin climb up the depth chart in the receiving room. Then number 5, we got Tim Patrick. He is this low just because of obviously his, I believe it was an ACL and an Achilles injury. Obviously, they were both 2 season-ending injuries, essentially, but I believe those were the 2 that he suffered. He's just this low. We'll have to see how he comes back from 2 essentially injuries that destroyed his leg, and he's obviously rehabbing and he's coming back. We'll have to see how he plays. Can he be that same old Tim Patrick? We'll have to see. That's why he's this low, but if he is that same Tim Patrick that we saw not 2 seasons ago, like 3 seasons ago, when Sutton was hurt, when Judy was hurt for a little bit, and he was the number 1 receiver, obviously he would be higher on this list. But due to the injuries, that is why he is this low. And then number 6, this one was tough. I mean, this isn't my final roster prediction, but I'm going Lil Jordan Humphrey, but could easily be Devon Vele, our 7th-round pick out of Utah. But I'm going Lil Jordan Humphrey, who had a very solid season or a very solid year last season for the Broncos, and that's how I expect the receiving room to stack up. But in Troy Franklin's college career at the University of Oregon, he played in 40 games with 160 receptions. He has 2,483 yards, averages about 15.5 yards per reception, and had 25 touchdowns. Now, here's the thing. I feel like Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims play a similar type of role. Troy Franklin's a little bit taller than Marvin Mims. They both kind of play the speedster deep threat. So will Sean Payton want to use both? Will he utilize both? Or will it kind of be one or the other? I kind of hope he uses both. You know, both of them have speed, and then you got the bigger possession guys and Reynolds and Sutton, of course. We'll have to see, but I expect, like I mentioned earlier, because of Troy Franklin's connection with Bo Nix, that college connection, their chemistry already, I think that Troy Franklin could potentially quickly rise up the depth chart. And it just, obviously, it depends on how the other receivers are playing. I think, obviously, Sutton's going to be there. You're going to give Reynolds a shot because you signed him to, I believe it was a 2-year deal in free agency. And then Mims has been here 1 year longer, so I think it's going to kind of be a little bit of seniority over Franklin. But I think the Broncos might want to see what they have in their young receiver and give Bo Nix some familiarity as he transitions from college to the NFL. But next up on my number 2 breakout candidate is going to be Bo Nix, of course. You know, I'm super, super excited about Bo Nix. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in the draft. I won't deny he wasn't my top guy. Obviously, you guys know I was a big J.J. McCarthy fan, but I also really, really liked Bo Nix. Like, it was McCarthy. Obviously, there was Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams. I knew they were going to be off the board. But in terms of guys who were realistic for the Broncos to get, it was McCarthy and then Nix, like right behind him. That was just my personal feeling towards Bo Nix. And so here's what the quarterback room currently looks like. It's right now, I think Bo Nix is going to win the job. I think Zach Wilson is going to be the quarterback number 2. I think Sean Payton likes what he sees in Zach Wilson, and he can potentially, I think Sean Payton thinks he can develop Zach Wilson. Maybe he could develop him into a starter, but at least a project, at least a young guy who we can get his hands on and mold. And then Jarrett Stidham might be the odd man out in that room, even though he is the veteran. But Zach Wilson also does have starting experience, more so, I would say, than Jarrett Stidham. So Stidham might be the odd man out in that quarterback room. But here's Bo Nix college stats. Of course, we all know he had played in a record 61 college games between both the Auburn Tigers and the Oregon Ducks. He had 1,286 completions on 1,936 passing attempts. He's thrown for 15,351 yards, throwing 113 touchdowns to 26 interceptions, and he had a pass rating of 149.6. Of course, we all know Bo Nix's game. He's going to get rid of the ball quickly, and he's going to get rid of the ball accurately. He had a great touchdown to interception ratio last year. Bo Nix is going to take what the defense gives him. Jeez, that was kind of hard to get out. But yeah, Bo Nix is going to take what the defense gives him, gets it out quickly, going to throw a lot of short, going to throw a lot of crossing routes, but he isn't going to be afraid to take the deep shot either. And I'm really excited about Bo Nix. Everything we've been hearing out of training camp is that Bo Nix has been impressing. I think he's going to be on track to start week 1 and start through the entirety of the season. And I think some people are kind of sleeping on Bo Nix outside of Broncos country, just in the NFL world. And I think Bo Nix can shock a lot of people. Of course, we're just talking breakout in terms of just for the Broncos. We're not talking about the entirety of the NFL. But, I think Bo Nix could shock some people league-wide, not just within the Broncos organization and for Broncos fans. And then at number 1, I am going to go ahead and give it to Marvin Mims. Of course, a Pro Bowler last year because he was a prolific returner. He was a great punt and kick returner. He was just so dynamic, and I expect him to have another dynamic year in returning kicks and returning punts. So I do expect Marvin Mims to still contribute in that area, but I also expect him, like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Troy Franklin, the receivers, I expect Marvin Mims to be heavily involved in the offense. I think he's going to be the main deep threat. Most likely, Troy Franklin and him could switch out and they could both get some reps, but I do expect Marvin Mims to contribute more and be more heavily involved in the offense this season. Of course, we look through the receiving room. It's Courtland Sutton, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Tim Patrick, and Little Jordan Humphrey. But last season, for Marvin Mims, we see that he played in 16 games, missed 1 game last season, but in terms of his receiving stats, he only had 22 receptions for 377 yards, averaged about 17.1 yards per reception. So, when he was catching the ball, it was deep down the field. Of course, he had that 1 touchdown, which came in week 2 against the Washington Commanders. But then you look at how he impacted special teams, returning 19 punts for 312 yards, returned 15 kicks for 397 yards, and 1 touchdown. He, in terms of breaking out, in terms of being a special teamer, returning kicks, he's kind of already done that. But the reason he's on this list is because I'm putting him on here as a whole, contributing in the offense. I don't really think he's broken out as his full potential as a player. I think that is still yet to come, and I think he's going to contribute heavily to Sean Payton's offense in year 2 for the Denver Broncos, and we're kind of having this youth movement come through the Denver Broncos. So I do expect Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Bo Nix. Let's see who else was on here. Marvin Mims, Bo Nix, Troy Franklin, Riley Moss, Baron Browning, the other guys I mentioned, Nick Benito, Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, all potential breakout candidates. Let me know who your breakout candidates are in the comment section below. Make sure if you did enjoy to leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below. Remember, remind me where you want me to post college football 25 content. That's going to be coming out. You guys might want it here because that's going to shorten the gaps in between uploads. It's going to be nice, especially in this dead time of the off season, to just get uploads out. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. But thank you so much for watching. My name is Parker, and I can't wait to see you in the next video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.